went viral. Only one of the 7 police officers who was involved in the killing of 41-year-old Daniel Prude last March is facing disciplinary charges in connection with his death. Now, Mr. Prude was killed in March of 2020, but the body camera footage wasn't released until 6 months later. And that's because Mr. Prude's brother, Joe, and their family attorney made a Freedom of Information request. Now, we're going to play a portion of that video for you, but again, it's horrifying on so many levels, so we do have to warn you first, it's very hard to watch. This video shows Officer Mike Vaughn pushing Mr. Prude's head into the pavement while another places a knee on his neck. The officers place a mesh spit hood over the head of Mr. Prude, who's naked on a cold winter night. It's snowing and the pavement looks icy. And when the video first went viral, social media was on fire with people wondering why the officers covered his head, why they were so brutal, and how could the other 6 officers just stand around mocking and laughing at Mr. Prude. Now, those hoods are used to stop people from biting and protecting officers from spit. And then after the video was released, New York's Attorney General presented the case to a grand jury, but they declined to file an indictment. The 7 officers were suspended without pay. The 6 remaining officers will now return to the Rochester Police Department's Professional Development Department, where they will work on department policies and procedures. Now, we reached out to the Rochester Police Department for comment. They have not returned our call. And joining me now tonight to talk about the case and this news that only one of the officers will face any disciplinary action is Joe Prude. He is Daniel Prude's brother. Elliot Shields, the Prude family attorney, and Janelle Fiona Griffith, NBC national reporter focusing on race and policing. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. Janelle, I'm going to start with you so you can summarize what happened since you've been covering this case from the beginning and you've fought so hard to keep it in the public eye. Briefly, take us through what happened the night of March 30th and what's happened in the case since then.
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Prude's brother had called 911 out of concern for his safety after he ran out of his home. And when police responded, they ended up restraining him and they held him against the cold pavement for at least 2 minutes until he stopped breathing, and they also put the mesh spit hood over his head. He died a week later, and since then, the 7 officers who responded, they were placed on leave, but we learned just days ago that only one of them is facing disciplinary charges from the policeman, and a grand jury ultimately had decided not to indict any of the 7 officers.
Okay, now we have Joe on the phone with us. Joe, I hope you can hear us. We want to get your reaction to this, but the first thing I want to do is talk about your brother, because that viral video showing the horrific circumstances of his death is what people know of him, but we want to honor his memory first. Tell us who he was as a person, what he was like growing up. Tell us your fondest memories of him.
The fondest memories of him? He was real competitive with me when we was coming up. You know, I loved basketball, he loved football, and he also was a good, like, a person that made you laugh.
Joe, and I know that you actually called 911 on the night that this all happened. Can you tell us why you called 911 and what happened when the police responded to your call?
So they responded to my call, and I basically told them, you know what I mean, I found out that my sister said something wasn't right with the situation with him back home, and he started acting out a strange way that I ain't never dealt with a person of that caliber, whereas, you know, you have an influence of a substance in you, and it make you, when it's coming out of your system, as they say, it makes you like respond to certain things real differently. And when he was responding to me, you know, it was like, it was kind of scary, you know, because he kept hollering out about God, the devil, you know, and I figured since I admitted him the first time, which didn't help me out at all, because they released him in 4 hours. So that last time I called again, I figured, you know what I mean, they take him in there now and they see that he really needs some help. the help that I couldn't give him. And
so Joe, you called the police to get help for your brother, who was clearly having, you know, he needed some help, clearly. You didn't know what, you tried to get help. And then this happens to your brother. And now today, we find out that one of the officers will get disciplinary action and the other ones are going to be put into jobs where they can have input into policy. How do you feel about this?
Man, real angry, real upset. You know, if you found departmental charges against one, why not the rest of all the 6? Why you leave out the other 6? They had part in that too, because they sat there and mocked him. You got 3 on him and folks standing around, just mocking and, you know, making derogatory little comments. You know that self-centered crap that these guys walking around with these badges on. And that policy, you know, it's like, I don't understand that, because if the grand jury didn't find no evidence to indict, how the departmental find the excessive force and the discourteous conduct against this officer and not the other 6? Because they all clearly was wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Joe, I'm going to talk to your lawyer, your attorney, who's also with us, Elliot. And I want to talk to you about that body cam video because it wasn't released until 6 months after the investigation. It went viral, of course. And now this is what we're seeing. Elliot, I'm hoping that you can speak on that.
We requested the body camera footage 4 days after Mr. Prude's death, and the city buried the footage. They had no legal right to withhold the body camera footage. There was an independent investigation conducted by a law firm called Emery Celli, Rinkerhoff, Beatty, Manzel, and Ward, hired by Rochester City Council. And the conclusion of that investigation was that they withheld the video without any legal basis. As of the appeal date, the process is you make a request. If they deny the request, then you file an agency appeal. They have 10 days from the date of the agency appeal to release the video. Their date to release the video legally was June 12th. As soon as they got the appeal, internal city documents showed that the RPD immediately contacted Corporation Counsel's office, the lawyers for the mayor and for the city, and they said, we cannot release this video. If we do, there will be mass protests in the city of Rochester, just like there were in Minneapolis. And we can't have that here. So what did they do? They passed an unlawful curfew, and they buried the video. They came up with several unlawful reasons to refuse to release the video to me and to Joe. After they finally realized that they had no other lawful reason to withhold the video and they'd exhausted all of their excuses, they finally released it to us. But what the internal investigation from Emery Celli showed is that Corporation Counsel and the mayor did not approve the release of the video. When the video was released by lower level attorneys from the city, Corporation Counsel yelled at those lower level attorneys and told them that everybody was going to be fired. So,
I mean, it's so clear to see why they didn't want that video released, Elliot. I mean, we've been showing bits and pieces of it. We're not showing all of it. It is too graphic. It's very clear why they didn't want anybody to see that video. And Janelle, I'm going to have you jump in here because I want to ask you about the failure to bring criminal charges in this case. We're watching that video. We're hearing the story. Tell us about the way this case was presented to the grand jury, and why do you think they did not vote on an indictment?
So the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, her office had presented the case to an investigative grand jury, and she has been accused of undermining her own case by having an expert testify who is known to testify on behalf of police officers, a man named Dr. Gary Bill. He's from California, and he often testifies on behalf of police officers accused of using excessive force. And people believe that she did not present a strong enough case to secure an indictment against these officers. And also, they believe the attorney for one of the officers who was at the scene, he has publicly said that Letitia James presented the case he would have should his client have been indicted. So there are some people who believe that she didn't present a strong case and that she bears some blame for not securing an indictment against all 7 of the officers who were at the scene the night that Mr. Prude died.
Wow, very interesting. All right, we have so much more to talk about this. I'm going to have all of you stand by. We're going to take a break. Once again, I'm talking to Joe Prude, Daniel Prude's brother, family lawyer, and a journalist who's covered the case from the very beginning about news that only one of the Rochester police officers who killed his brother will face disciplinary charges. I'll ask Joe Prude about his reaction. He's on the phone with us. Stay with us. We'll be right back after. The result of the police department's internal investigation that 6 of these officers are still on the force. And didn't you at one time even refer to this as a lynching?
Yeah. Breaks up.
Joe, can you hear me?
I didn't hear you.
Joe, I'm going to repeat that for you. I'm talking about your reaction to what we're learning today about 6 of these officers still being on the force. I want to hear your reaction to what's happened here. And I want to know about your thoughts of what happened and the punishment here, which there doesn't seem to be much punishment.
No, it's not. That's like a slap in the face, a shove to the ground, and it's like, how can you sit here and charge one under the departmental policies that y'all bringing forth against Mark 1, but not the other 6? That's a downright upset right there. Bad enough we didn't get no indictment because the case was trumped up not to get us no indictment. That case was led in one way. They never asked me questions about such and such or this and that. They only asked about PCP use. That's a downright disgusting. It's like, I'm so disgusted with their facts and they little, oh man, I can't even really even describe the anger that I'm feeling because of that.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice. I know it's tough. And at one time, didn't you describe it as a lynching?
Yeah, I said what they call a cold-blooded lynching.
Cold-blooded.
Straight cold-blooded. They did that in cold blood and got away with it.
I mean, you called them for help for your brother. They didn't call, they didn't call in backup. They didn't call.
I didn't call for them to hurt my brother. I called them to come help me with my brother. And this is the things I get for calling them. That don't make no sense.
Yeah, we all feel for you. We all feel for you, Joe. And I'm going to ask your attorney, Elliot. You heard Joe say that it felt like a slap in the face. Not only that the other 6 officers are not facing disciplinary action, they're now going to actually work in the police department's professional development office. The same officers who mocked this man as he lay dying and clearly used every possible incorrect technique, they're now going to develop policy and procedure. Can you speak to that?
The law is clear that when one officer is using excessive force or violating somebody's constitutional rights, the rest of the officers at the scene have a duty to intervene and prevent that officer from violating somebody's rights. Here, that's exactly what happened. And instead of facing discipline, these officers are being rewarded. They're not facing any discipline. They're not facing any criminal charges. Instead, they're being rewarded by getting put onto the professional development section, a cushy job where they don't have to be on the street interacting with people. Instead, they get to develop policy, just like you said. Essentially, what this means is that the Rochester Police Department approves of what they did. Watching this video is essentially like a training video for the rest of the department. It says to every other police officer in Rochester, when somebody is violating somebody's rights, you can sit back and do nothing. You don't have to worry that your failure to intervene will lead to disciplinary charges against you. What you can be confident in is that you'll be able to maintain your job. And in fact, you can get a promotion. And that's not right. The law is clear.
And you know,
that when something like this happens.
Go ahead, finish your thought, Elliot. No, I just wanted to point out. I want to point something out.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to point something out about the Rochester Police Department. It does not seem to be a one-off. In fact, there is other video that we do want to show. It is somewhat graphic, of another incident that happened with the Rochester Police Department, this one involving a child. I want to have us take a look at that. Once again, I have to warn everybody that it is graphic, but it's another example of something that's clearly wrong with this police department.
Oh, you said that you were going to pepper spray me. No, please, no, stop. Oh, I got a bad arm.
This sprayer.
No, I have
This sprayer at this point.
Stop. Stop.
Dear.
Stop.
I got her. I got her. Yeah.
Please, wipe my eye. Wipe my eye, please.
Okay, so that was police officers handcuffing and pepper spraying a 9-year-old girl while she's crying and screaming and sobbing for her father. Once again, that video, disturbing. We didn't show the whole thing, but you can clearly see there's a problem with the Rochester Police Department. Elliot, how is this allowed? How is this happening?
Later in that video, what you hear a police officer tell that 9-year-old girl is that she's acting like a child and that she needs to stop acting like a child. And she had enough wherewithal to say back to the police officer, I am a child. And that's what they didn't seem to grasp in that instance, that she's a child, she needed to be treated with compassion. No child needs to be slammed onto the icy, snowy ground in 32-degree weather and then thrown into the back of a police car and pepper sprayed in the face. Now, the other thing about that incident is that numerous officers on the scene there also have long disciplinary histories. Shortly after that incident, another woman holding a 3-year-old child was stopped, chased, thrown to the ground in front of her 3-year-old child as her child reached out and tried to hold her hand. What's the problem with the Rochester Police Department? The problem with the Rochester Police Department is that they continually approve of officers using excessive force against people. Officers are never held accountable. In 30 years, barely any officers, even when captured on video, have been held accountable internally or in court for their unlawful actions. When you see videos like this that go viral and then those officers aren't held accountable, it's not just the public that sees them, it's the entire Rochester Police Department. They see these videos, they talk about it internally, and they understand, I can act like that, I'm not going to get in trouble. And what the message is from the police department, it's basically like a training video. It's a training video that tells them, we want you to act like this. This is how we expect you to act. Because if you do act like that, you're not going to get in trouble. Instead, you're going to be promoted. And that has happened over and over again in the cases that I've litigated, in the cases that we're watching videos of right now. And it's not right.
Yeah, it is absolutely, it is not right. It's so troubling. But I want to thank all of you for joining us. Joe, I know you're on the phone. Thank you so much for being with us. Our hearts go out to you and your family. And we appreciate all of you for joining us, Attorney Elliot Shield and Janelle Fiona Griffith, NBC.
Peace community, peace community. If you are a part of the community, welcome. if you part of the community. Welcome back, y'all. Listen, NY. This is some. Let me turn this music down so we can hear each other very, very clearly. An NY officer faces departmental charges, right, in the killing of Daniel Prude. If you see this video is very disturbing. Very disturbing video. Very disturbing. All right. You see this man on an icy road. All right. Sitting naked on the middle of the street. Okay. Naked on the streets. What do these people do? Do these officers help him? They go and put something over his head. The craziest thing about this whole situation is that the brother of the person killed called for help with the brother, and it's led to the brother being killed. I could only imagine how the brother feels. I can only imagine how this brother feels. And the city of Rochester, where this happened, has been a long-lasting, it's been, these situations have been going on. They had one situation of a 9-year-old child in the backseat of a squad car, and you hear the officer telling the female one, this guy hadn't gone to spray her. They spraying the girl with mace. She's like, oh my God, wipe my eyes, please. You hear the officer then telling the girl, stop acting like a child. The girl has the onus and everything to say, shout out to this brave little girl. She says, I am a child. The girl's 9 years old. They have her handcuffed in the back of a squad car and they mace her. This is the type of action that the Rochester Police Department is sanctioning. They sanctioning this type of situation. The officers is only 1 out of 6 officers you see on the screen if you see the thumbnails. 1 out of 6 officers will face any charges. All right. The crazy thing about it is the other officers will be, I think a couple of them other ones are going to be basically. Are they bumped up? They're going to be bumped up to develop policy and procedure. So now they're not going to have to be officers on the streets. Now they're going to work from a cushy desk and a cushy seat, right? Now they're going to be not on the streets, working from the office or wherever, right? Developing policy and procedure when they are all seen on the video in question, okay? They are seen in the video in question. I'm about to bring it back for y'all, right? They're seen in the video in question, not doing nothing to help the man that's on the ground. So I am going to show y'all both situations. I'm going to show y'all the first situation of him on the ground so you can see exactly how nasty of a crime this was. You see the man put yo, this crazy, man. Certain things just make me so sad, man, to think that people could treat people this way, man. How could anybody treat anybody this way, yo? It's crazy to me. Look at this. Just to show you a little bit of it. This is crazy. Sad. Shout out to BNC News for the clip.
With people.
Look at the clip. Look what they doing. They putting it on the man's head. Look what they doing to this man. Look, all of these officers, are they helping him? So why would these officers be going to develop any kind of policy? Answer me that question. Why would they be going to develop any kind of policy? Look at the situation. Look at this. The man is naked on an icy cold floor, On an icy cold floor. The man is naked. You think they helping him? I do want to show you a little brief footage of the little girl and the disturbing footage of that situation. It's just terrible to see. Look at this situation with the little girl. This is the Rochester Police Department, right? And this is the type of things that's happening, right? You're going to see how this man is dealing with the little child. With a little child, These people act like they don't have kids themselves. And that's the saddest thing in situations like this, right? So check out this situation. I'm going to bring up the audio for this because we need to hear this little girl's cries and her situation and how these people are just so insensitive, right? Listen to this.
Just spray her. Just spray her at this point.
Just spray her at this point. Look her shaking it and sprays her. A 9-year-old girl. He has one in his hand too. You're gonna hear her saying, "Wipe it for me."
I got her.
Please wipe her eyes. Okay? Then the officer goes on to tell the child, stop acting like a child when the child is a child. The child is more smarter than these officers because the child looks at the officers and tells the officers, I am a damn child. What's wrong with y'all? Y'all supposed to be showing some kind of sympathy and empathy for a child, regardless of what you came there for. You're supposed to show some sympathy for this child, regardless of what this child came here for. And that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me for us to have to watch and witness something like that. To hear that little girl crying out like that. It's sad, man. It's very, very sad. I think the whole Rochester Police Department, y'all dropped the ball. Rochester's a scary place to be. Very scary place to be. And I think the whole force out there is on some...
Oh, no, you can't be serious. That is some bullshit right there.
That's exactly what they on right now. Exactly what they on right now. Our hearts goes out to the Prude family. The brother is the one that called the police to help them with their brother, with his brother, and it led ultimately to his death. And that's so sad. You know, I know that is beating him up and killing him right now. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that you tried to help your brother and these people came and weaponized the situation against you. So that situation is pretty crazy. Junebug says same old, same old. I don't know if it's same old, same old. You know what I'm saying? What I know that is I'm lifting my voice on it. So it ain't same old, same old. I was not in a position where I was lifting my voice. I was in the streets doing a bunch of shit that I'm trying to stop people from doing right now. So it's not the same old, same old. We're going to start talking about situations and start bringing these things up and using our voices. Shout out to Daughter of the Sea. Shout out to her all the time. Shout out to QI Film, Media, and Art. Make sure you're subscribing to those channels. This is crazy. Let me know what y'all thinking about the situation. Like, share, subscribe. Subscribe here to community. Subscribe to One Community TWO, the second channel. I will be doing special streams over there as well. Make sure you're subscribed over there. Make sure you're subscribed here. And make sure you're subscribed on OOTA Block, OOTABLOKK. I've created a block where we can put our minds together on music and different things, just like I created a community here where we could put our mind together on conscious communications and different things like that and awareness. And that's the type of stuff that we need to be doing as a community. I appreciate y'all all. You know how we do it. It's really sad, man. Both situations sad. In the Prude situation and in a child that was maced and all of that mishandled, mistreated in the back of that car is crazy. Shame on y'all officers. Shame on y'all. And the crazy thing is that one officer out of the whole of them is going to be locked. And what's crazier is that couple of the officers, they're going to be boosting them up and giving them a better position as an officer now. They ain't got to be in the streets, get the cushy job and a seat. You know what I'm saying? And they're going to be developing policy. Why would people be developing policy and procedure that was standing in that video, not doing a goddamn thing to help a black man that was standing and sitting on an icy ground while they were standing and not helping that man? That is a misuse of policy. That is a not following of procedures. And procedure is supposed to be what the officers are supposed to be upholding. Courtesy, the procedure, the policy. They got all these kind of things written on the side of the squad car. That must have been an unmarked car, huh? You ain't see the policy, the procedure, and all that on the side of the vehicle that's usually next to the precinct number? You ain't see that one, huh? That brother called for help for his own brother. And look what it led to, man. That is so sad, man. So sad. You already know one love, one community. You already know it's one voice. We got to unify them and bring them together on our commonalities, not our disagreements. Subscribe to